Good morning, everyone. This is Michael, and we are working now with the readings and meditation for that wonderful little book, The Reappearance of the Christ, which outlines for us what we think is probably the most important event on our planet as far as humanity is concerned, and maybe as far as the entire planet and its kingdoms are concerned. And I think, although we don't know the day and the hour, we're only, certainly it won't happen before another 100 years, that's pretty clear, given what must happen. But after that, anything is possible. So we're approaching closer all the time, and hierarchy has to begin to externalize, in fact, and it will be so, as the plans will be laid in 2025, as the Tibetan says, in all probability, for the first stages of the real externalization of the hierarchy, and that leads straight to the reappearance of the Christ. Well, what I'd like to do is read a little bit from that book. We've been going along. Tuija and I, we've been reading from this book and The Destiny of the Nations, and various triangles, excerpts, and I think one more is slipping my mind at the moment, but Glamour, a world problem. We've been reading through that book as well. And now, if if and as time allows, then we begin with some work in Cosmic Fire, which is a book that so many people are interested in, even though it is a book for initiates, as has been said. But I think that we can get something out of it, a great sense of the synthesis of what Master DK sees. So, we had reached this point, kind of page 58 or so. And let's see what I have here. Yes, we ended with the idea that Hermes, a great teacher, the Buddha and the Christ, could all say, as those teachers and world saviors have said, I am the light of the world. And this light, says the Tibetan, will now flood the world of men, bringing illumination to men's minds and light into dark places of human living. We can certainly expect this during the Aquarian Age. I think there will be the illumination of quite a few people, and that's that awakening, that illumination is generally gathering by the time the second initiation is taken, and specifically the transfiguration has been called the illumination. Okay, we'll go on then. It is light, and above all else, life more abundantly, which Christ will bring. And until he brings it, we know not what it signifies. Of course, we can, imagine. Light and life. We cannot realize the revelation which this will entail and the new possibilities which will open up before us. But through him, light and life are on their way, and of course he is the Lord of love. We have to realize that, so that goes without saying. Light and life are on their way to be interpreted and applied in terms of goodwill and of right human relations. For this, the spiritual hierarchy is preparing. This time, the Christ will not come alone, for his co-workers will come with him. His experience and theirs will be the reverse of the previous one. For this time every eye shall see him, every ear shall hear him, and every mind pass judgment upon him. We notice that that factor about the mind is added. It's usually just the eye and the ear, but he will pass before the judgment seat of many, and of course not all will be favorable. Those who are holding on to their personal prerogatives. Aquarius is very much the sign of life more abundantly, and there's a great Jupiter effect where a largesse is given. Christ looks upon humanity and he thinks, as the Tibetan has said, poor ones. We are considered poor ones because we have so little of the spiritual gifts, and he comes to bring an abundance of those so that it will work out the truth of what he has said. Greater things shall you do than I now do. So we go on here a little. We can freely aid in the reconstruction work. Remember the forces of reconstruction. They're under Gemini, which is considered the head of the cosmic Christ, and it's a great Ray 2 sign. And the world needs that. Even now, it's not just as a result of the Great War between 1914 and 1945. We can freely aid in the reconstruction work which the Christ proposes if we familiarize ourselves and all men whom we may contact with the following facts. And, this is really where our responsibility comes in, and on the part of some of us, a certain reticence, because we know that the things said will be thrown right back at us as if they were not true and fanciful and not important and superstitious and so forth. But we have to familiarize, he says, all men whom we can contact with the following facts. Number one, that the reappearance of the Christ is imminent. We are now within the range of his reappearance, whether it will be a few centuries or just 1 century or a certain number of decades. It is imminent. Number two, that the Christ, imminent, immanent, notice the way those two words are spelled differently. The first one means coming soon, and immanent means stored within. That the Christ, immanent in every human heart, can be evoked in recognition of his appearance. So the great love wisdom has to begin to characterize us, obviously, and some of the light and some of the power which he will bring has to begin to grow within us. Number three, that the circumstances of his return are only symbolically related in the world scriptures. This may produce a vital change in the preconceived ideas of humanity. Well, some will accept who are ready to accept, and others will, if they are of a more literal state of mind, believing in every word that the Bible we use in the West is true, literally true, then they will reject. But time will prove the symbolic nature of the scriptures. Number four, that the major required preparation is a world at peace. However, that peace must be based upon an educated goodwill, which will lead inevitably to right human relations, and therefore to the establishment, figuratively speaking, of lines of light between nation and nation, religion and religion, group and group, man and man. So you can see there's a lot of work to be done, and along with this, we're reminded of the need for the sharing between nations as an established way of interaction, and of the success that political groups and religious groups and all manner of gatherings have in cleaning house. Okay, so these 4 points: the imminence of the Christ, that Christ is within every human heart and can be evoked, that the symbolic nature of his coming is related in the scriptures, but it may be very different than it seems to be for the literal-minded, and peace must come, a certain measure of peace, before he can reappear. If we can succeed, and now he's speaking directly to us who are carrying this idea, if we can succeed in presenting these four ideas to the world at large, and thus in overcoming the intelligent criticism that all that is said is too vague, prophetic, visionary, we shall have done much. It is possible, surely, that the ancient truism that, quote, the mind is the slayer of the real, may be fundamentally true where the mass of humanity is concerned, and that the purely intellectual approach, which rejects the vision and refuses to accept, I might say even hypothetically, refuses to accept the unprovable, may be far more at fault than the anticipation of the knowers of God and the expectant multitude. Well, those are thoughts to ponder, and DK is laying much responsibility squarely upon us. We have read this book. We are esoterically inclined students of the mysteries. We have a certain faith in the ageless wisdom. Maybe some of it we've proven for ourselves. And as for others of it, the appeal and brilliance of the teacher, Master DK, convinces us that what he says is true. So our work then is to help convey this vision to many, if we can, and therein lies our challenge. We have to be quite resourceful, because not everybody wants to hear, and then we have to choose our audience wisely, if we can do that, so that we don't simply become, as it is said, a voice crying in the wilderness. Well, here is, I'll just make a little marker here, if I can do that. So this is the 25th of September, 19. This is it will be the beginning next Thursday, and I hope that one of us will be able to take this, because it's going to be a traveling day. So we'll just see what is possible, but I think something can be worked out. And the 3rd of October, 2019. Okay, friends, now we will get into our meditation. And all this work we do, it's very important somehow It's true that we're not that group of some 50 or 51 people that were gathered around the Tibetan in the 30s and 40s of the last century, but we're definitely allied. Probably some of those people are back in incarnation right now and preparing to take the great teaching a step farther. I mean, they were there when it was first given out, and maybe it's their karma and dharma to be there when it is continued in its third installment. So we begin by realizing the importance of the triangle's work, and we carry the light, absorb the light. The light, in this case, which chases away all fear. It is not an easy thing to do this work, and as has been said, the road winds uphill all the way. We may not quite realize that yet, but we will necessarily realize it. And so we absorb the white light, and also we absorb the golden, orange, yellow light of the solar angel, and allow these two forms of light to penetrate the entire personality. And we're going to answer some questions before the bar of our soul, as it were. And so we strive with personality, positiveness, and receptivity to the higher light to have the irradiated mind, the mind held steady in the light. And every week we ask ourselves these questions. It's not like they can be settled once and for all. There is constant change and new developments in the life of the true disciple. And so, the first question. As a member of the new group of world servers, what is your specific fixed intention at this moment of dedicated contact with your soul? And we ponder. is my concentrated and expressed personality purpose in line with hierarchical intention, as far as I am permitted to know it. And the third one, have I, in my own personal daily life, earned the right, because of definite effort and not so much because of success, to stand with those servers who are now undertaking the work of preparation? And the Tibetan tells us that this is the one time in the meditation where we think of ourselves, and it is here because it is a method of personality-focused attention and aligns our personality on the mental plane. And basically, we have to have the right attitude, right orientation towards this most important and extremely practical work. Now we focus on a very important, well, is it a mantra, is it a prayer, is it an affirmation? We can decide what word to put on it, but it certainly indicates our commitment. Forgetting the things which lie behind, I will strive towards my higher spiritual possibilities. I dedicate myself anew to the service of the coming One, and will do all I can to prepare men's minds and hearts for that event. I have no other life intention. And you can say, as you think about this, that it's really a decision, and it sort of separates the sheep from the goats, meaning those who are truly serious about the hierarchy's intention, and those who, as the Tibetan says, are involved in simply expressing their soul, which is good, of course, but it's not the relinquishment which is necessary for all workers with this project and with hierarchy. Now, we visualize the world situation as best as we can, and in terms of our major world interest, and with what knowledge of world affairs we may possess. And certainly, in terms of the three requirements, that measure of peace, that inclination of governments to share with each other shared resources and expertise, and the house cleaning. Well, the house cleaning is occurring. It's beginning. Maybe it's the easiest of all, and it's difficult enough. So that's how it is today. We are to see the mass of men everywhere glowing with a dim light. And here and there, points of brighter light, where members of the new group of world servers and men and women of spiritual intention and of loving hearts are working for their fellow men. Then we visualize through the creative imagination the vivid light of the hierarchy, and we see it streaming towards humanity and slowly merging with the light which is already in the human race. And so the dim lights are brightened and the points of brighter light are made still brighter. And then the first stanza of the great invocation, visualizing all this from the point of light within the mind of God. Let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Now, we ponder upon the reappearance of the Christ, and we realize that no matter by what name he may be called in the many world religions, he is still the same great identity. And we reflect and speculate upon the possible results of his reappearance. His arrival will mean huge changes, extreme stress upon him and upon the hierarchy, and great decisions to be made by so many human beings who will have to exercise the sword of discrimination and decide which way they will go. But his radiation of love will help so much in that decision, and then we, in thought of this, we say the second stanza of the invocation. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. And so what can we do? And we're advised here, endeavor to concentrate your fixed intention to serve and to spread love in your surroundings. And realize that insofar as you can do those things, you are attempting to blend your personal will with the divine will. And thinking of this divine will, we offer the third stanza. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. And when we think about his reappearance, we know that humanity must be educated in the idea. As our reading has shown us. So what can we do to further that? What can we do in the coming week to further preparations for the coming of the Great One, the coming one, the head of the hierarchy? We have to lay practical plans. We're still in the 60-year period of the Forerunner. It began in 1965, it ends in 2025. And we definitely have a part to play. So in the presence of our angel of the presence and of the Master, we make a definite plan for the coming week and determine how we will help with the preparations, perhaps even writing the plan down so we remember it well. And as we come into the presence of the Christ, we use this little mantra which expresses our attitude. We have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya. Be with us. And we welcome him into our midst. Now we sound the Om 3 times. And we dedicate the threefold personality to the work of preparation. Friends, this is something in which we are really engaged, and we can carry the idea with us that whomever we speak to and wherever we go, we are aware that opportunity exists to help educate others on the externalization of the hierarchy and the reappearance of the head of the hierarchy. It's our duty to find the right ways to do this. So, Tuija and I want to thank you for attending this little meditation. Last night we had a little problem with the webinar, and GoToMeeting finally decided to send a message. We've had a breakdown, they said. Okay, well, I guess everyone's entitled to a breakdown. And tomorrow morning there will be the Dissipation of Glamour webinar, and we hope that GoToMeeting has managed to fix their problem, which becomes our problem, of course. It's a wonderful book, Cosmic Fire, almost 1,300 pages long, and we'll find ways to really study it over the net. We've had classes all over the world on Cosmic Fire. In Australia, New Zealand, Europe, the United States. We've had those classes, but now we can reach even more people, and we'll do our very best to discuss and help to create in our minds that amazing synthesis which Cosmic Fire can bring. So we look forward to working with you tomorrow and continuously in our Ask program. Ask, seek, and knock, and the response will come. Many blessings to everyone, lots of love, and thank you for attending this meditation. Here